This is He Who Moans, Doctor Who reviews. I only complain because I like Doctor Who and I care. And I overanalyze too much because... whatever, it's just my opinion. You want to know what made me lose about 90% of my faith in Stephen Moffat as a writer? I can point to the exact moment. It's when he gave this quote in response to this question. Yeah. And it's not as though I'm a huge fan of the Rani and was desperate to see her back, but this quote says we were all completely wrong about Stephen Moffat really getting Doctor Who, and I'll explain why. While I was never a fan of the Rani, disagree all you want, but I always see her as a rather shallow, desperate attempt by JNT and Pip and Jane Baker to write a female version of the Master to G up interest in the series again, with as little effort as possible. And also the obvious reason that I'm not really a fan of any of the 3 stories she was in. As much as I don't have a reason to see anything in this response to, are you going to bring the Rani back? That quote is the definition of lazy writer and false sincerity, and if we take it at face value, it says something rather dangerous that I've been worried is true for a while. That Doctor Who is riding its reputation on nostalgia and nothing else. And anything that does that always has a limited lifespan. And hell, it's not like I'm against nostalgia. In fact, I love nostalgia, but it's only one part of the equation that makes this stuff work. It's a jumping off point, it's not the whole substance. It's obviously not 100% true that it's just nostalgia that Doctor Who's riding, since Moffat's tried to make his own iconic aliens that you're going to remember. It hasn't always worked, but he has at least tried to be original. But it says the only reason that he has to use bits of classic Who is based on nostalgia and not on their qualities. If the only reason that he has for reviving bits of classic Who is that they were memorable enough, he clearly doesn't see the bigger picture. Saying the Rani isn't memorable enough is saying the only reason that we're including the Ice Warriors or the Zygons is because they were memorable. This way of thinking is saying the only reason the Daleks are on screen is because people remember them, and they like stuff that they remember. When that's obviously not why they're on screen. It's because the writers are excited to do stuff that they want to see the Daleks doing, and so are the audience. I seriously swear that this is his mindset. I know, I'm just going to shove the Cybermen in any old story whether they actually need to be there or not, because people remember them, and they like stuff they remember. People will probably moan that we're doing some old shit with Craig again. I know, we haven't done the Cybermats yet, that'll shut classic Who fans up. I'm going to write I. Chesterton on screen because people remember he was one of the first companions, and people will go, I remember that makes it awesome. Which just... This thinking is laziness to me, and trying to get a cheer out of people just for the sake of it, which did work for me with Name of the Doctor, but yeah. For example, this is a book that I read when I was a little kid. Did you read it when you were a little kid? Did you go, yeah, when I put a picture of the cover on screen? Now this video is about the three-legged cat. It is a good book from my childhood. Do you remember it? Yeah. That's all I'm doing, really. There's no purpose in drumming nostalgia like this without adding anything of your own to it, and it gets old very, very quickly. Here are some more things I remember from my childhood. They are good. Here they are in a video. That must make this video good because they were good. Here, Moffat's saying people won't go nostalgic for her, not, let's take something from classic Who that had its faults, yes, and put effort in and try and do our own thing with it. He's clearly not that excited as his role as Doctor Who head writer then, because clearly this is bollocks and she is memorable enough to the fans if they are asking you if you're going to bring her back. Clearly enough people remember her and want her back if it's become a running joke among geeks like me that everyone is the Rani until proven otherwise. Like, do your own thing with her then and try and make her memorable in your eyes. You're a writer. You can do that, you know. It's one of those things that writers can do. They can take stuff people wrote before and put their own unique spin on them. Like, we were all pretending that you were this auteur genius head writer, Moffat. Why don't you prove that? The role of a writer on a series that they didn't create is that they are hired to serve a target audience. Not the other way round. We're not hired to serve your ego. Clearly the Rani is in the interest of your target audience. If you don't like her, why not try and write her so you would like her? It's a challenge. As a writer, you should be approaching those. It's your job. New Who fans unfamiliar with her wouldn't get confused, because apparently no one remembers her. That's a fucking stupid line of defense, because it would just be, hey, so there's this evil time lady called the Rani. Okay, cool. And old Who fans who would like to see her doing shit would be pleased too, because she's come back and she's doing stuff. It doesn't matter if she wasn't memorable. People don't want to see her because they remember her. They want to see her because they remember her and they liked her and want to see her doing stuff in a story. And they think that New Who fans would like her too. If Moffat had said, I'm not bringing the Rani back because I don't think that she was a good character in my opinion, and I don't want to write her, fine, I'd accept that. He's a writer. Writing is all about personal perspective. And if someone on the team wants to do it, they should talk with him about it. Though, to be honest, I don't understand why he doesn't like her, since the Rani does conform to his chart of aspects of a female character written by Stephen Moffat, that he consults whenever trying to come up with any character with lady parts, because the Moffat must obey his cliché map. But it's this false sincerity that gets me here, that he thinks that's the reason not to do it. I feel I don't like her is what he wanted to say here, but he lacked the balls to do it. But if we're taking this quote at face value, this allows me to say smug things like this. This is the sort of thing said by marketing fucks and focus groups with only the vaguest grasp of what a target audience is. They like to tell people what they want. They don't listen to them. They take broad demographics and just shove in what they think these people want without putting in effort to take something people love and make it their own, as writers and artists. What I love about Classic Who is that the people who made it loved it and wanted to be there, and they wanted to give their target audience some cool imaginative sci-fi. Not because it would make them shut up and be pacified with what we can churn out that looks like something they're nostalgic for. Watch that bit in An Adventure in Space and Time where Verity Lambert's shouting down Sidney Newman for rejecting the Daleks. That's what fueled Doctor Who diluted into 2.5 minutes, and proof that even though Mark Gatiss is far from a great writer, he at least understands where the passion that people have for this show comes from and why it lasted 26 years. Because everyone involved in the production was excited to do it for people in the audience like them who love sci-fi. What this says is that Moffat doesn't find the show interesting anymore, and he doesn't give a crap about what his target audience wants. I mean, say what you like about John Nathan Turner, at least he found the show interesting. He clearly liked his job making it. He wouldn't have stayed on for 9 years through 4 different doctors and taken a load of gut-punching risks in that time if he didn't think it was a good show. Whereas Moffat's clearly bored with it by this point, just shoving in as many references to memorable stuff as possible just to shut us all up. Not because he wants to embrace his role as a showrunner and do something unique and personal. Yeah, I know that TV's a business, of course it is. They're just thinking of what's going to make them money. But the BBC is defined as a public service, and it's accountable to the public. In this case, the fans. And if the fans want it, as a large cross-section of them clearly do, as that question being asked indicates, you should at least consider it. Not just go, only sad dweebs want the fucking Rani back. Now, let's have a 5-minute long sequence of the Doctor giving Riversong a feel-up. I mean, if your focus groups have said, people need to relate to regular ordinary person shit, so let's spend 2 entire fucking episodes dedicated to some random prick in a house on Earth and his relationships for no bloody reason, and you actually go ahead and do that, then there's no reason you can't also waste an entire episode bringing back a semi-popular classic Doctor Who villain. Enough episodes are squandered on pointless dross that never results in anything interesting anyway because a marketing group told you to do it. Like, why can't we waste 1 episode on bringing the Rani back if clearly lots of people want her back? Not memorable enough is not good enough in my opinion, and if this really is your mindset on this Moff, it makes me lose all faith in you. Since it clearly isn't, and I just didn't like her is clearly the meaning behind this, I'll let it slide. But could you try and be honest in future? Because I'll accept that, because what you've said here is rather ostentatious, and it disregards a lot of Doctor Who fans' opinions. It's a show you're in charge of, but it's not yours. You're meant to be working in everyone's interests. And the Rani would easily cater for people who want her back, and it would also cater to people who can't remember her if you actually put in effort as a writer who is responsible to your target audience.